This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. One of the questions I get asked, it's funny when we talk about expectations and Deshaun Watson, how these things have gone from one extreme to another extreme. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Today's video, we're going to be breaking down another clip from the Speak for Yourself show on Fox about Deshaun Watson and what would a successful season look like for Deshaun Watson. So because they want to content claim this, and because I've been working at this for 2 hours on trying to get this video cleared past Content ID, I'm just going to have to summarize some of the takes that they are claiming, even though this is fair use. If you want to hear what they said, go ahead and search the video for Fox Sports. I'm not even going to make it easy at this point because I'm so tired of the whole situation. So they asked about what the expectations for Deshaun Watson would be, given that Greg Newsome seems to feel like he's back. They asked around. Joy was the first to answer, and Joy said the expectations for Deshaun Watson are the Super Bowl. Because he makes $230 million guaranteed. And because his contract is so large, it only makes sense to judge that the goals can only be the largest, which are the Super Bowl. Now, she also makes a sub point about if we won't want to do that with people, then I don't want to hear about the money when it comes to Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. So we could just leave the money out of it and not talk about expectations. But she does not offer like an alternative expectation. That's not how she wants to view it. She just really offers the Super Bowl or bust expectation for Deshaun Watson. I tried my best to summarize this. If you would not like to hear a summarized version of this take, join the Patreon, join the membership. They got the unaltered version. Okay, so, well, the one premise with this argument that I really struggle with that Joy's bringing up is she's mentioning the $230 million, which is fine, right? And I guess the basic idea is, hey, he's getting paid $230 million, a unprecedented amount of money for an NFL quarterback. The expectation should be that he wins the Super Bowl. But I don't see how that has to do with just like this year's expectations. Like the $230 million are not for 1 year of play. And it's weird how like it always gets talked about as if they're paying for 1 year at $230 million. They're paying for 5 years at $230 million. Now, yes, when you're paying a quarterback $230 million, you would very much like for there to be a Super Bowl in those 5 years. But you're not signing him to that contract. And nobody arguing in good faith is going to make the argument that the Browns signed him to the contract expecting him to go to the Super Bowl and win it every year. But that's what Joy's argument is. Her argument is based on, hey, he makes this much money, so therefore every year he plays under that contract, he must win a Super Bowl, or else NFL owners are going to use that as an example not to pay quarterbacks, when that's kind of an oxymoron, because quarterbacks are the one position in the NFL that have leverage. Like, their quarterbacks are going to get paid. I promise you, if Kirk Cousins can get 2 guaranteed contracts, quarterbacks are going to continue to get paid. That's not what the issue is here. So again, with Joy's argument, it only works when you think about it real quick. Oh yeah, he gets paid a bunch of money. Of course, the Browns, the successful season for Deshaun Watson can only be if he makes a Super Bowl. But he's not just getting paid for this year. He's getting paid for last year, this year, next year, the year after that. So what does the $230 million have to do? If you want to talk about his cap hit for this year, we could talk about it, but it's not one of the higher cap hits in the NFL. So it doesn't make sense to really bring that up, right? It's really, really selective about when these numbers come up. Because if you could say that about $230 million, then how many Super Bowls does Pat Mahomes have to win to justify his contract within the length of it. Is every year, is Patrick Mahomes a loser if he does not win the Super Bowl every year? Is Josh Allen a loser if he does not win the Super Bowl every year? Is Joe Burrow, once he gets paid, a loser? Is Jalen Hurts a loser if they don't go to the Super Bowl every year? That's where the argument falls apart, is judging the $230 million as a total of his contract and giving him an expectation for 1 year of it based on the total of that contract, when the total of that contract's 5 years. So yes, within that contract, you could say, hey, what would be a failure for Deshaun Watson in his tenure in Cleveland is if he does not get a Super Bowl within those 5 years. And while I may not 100% agree with that take, I would understand where that take comes from. What I cannot get behind is you blanketly saying, oh, because he's paid $235 million over 5 years, because of that, he has to get the Super Bowl here. And using that, and what I really feel like is happening is this is an argument about something else, not necessarily about Deshaun Watson. And this is her way of proving whatever argument she was trying to make right. But when in the context of just a specific conversation about Deshaun Watson, because I don't know what other quarterback argument she's been having, it doesn't make sense because, again, yeah, the $230 million is a big number, but it's over 5 years. So the expectation is not every year he wins a Super Bowl. That's silly. That's silly. We did not sign Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns so he can win 5 Super Bowls in 5 years. We signed him to have a better chance of winning 1. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't get that side of the take.
But that should be the standard based off of what he's paid, or we all have to stop talking about everyone else's money. Can't have it both ways. Now, last year we gave him a pass.
And again, if the take is to not talk about people's money as much, I would agree with that. I do think we bring up quarterback money way too often. But how does this argument help that argument? Like, maybe somebody can explain it to me, but I don't see it. And I'm not being like facetious when I say that. Like, I'm genuinely interested if there's an argument that could be made for what she's saying being about not talking about quarterbacks' money.
Because he didn't come back until week 12. Nobody had any kind of expectation that he was going to come in after having that much time off and just run the table. That wasn't going to happen, and that's fine. Now he's had a whole off season. That team is loaded with talent. He's got talent at every position. He's got a former coach of the year, and he's been paid $230 million guaranteed. If you have the most guaranteed money of anybody at your position, and you reset the market the way that you did, how can the standard not be, not what will actually happen, not what we realistically think should happen, but what should the standard be for someone who is paid $230 million guaranteed at the quarterback position, if not Super Bowl?
And what is the fixation on the guaranteed in the context of this argument? Like, that's what I don't get, is there's a lot of fixation on the guaranteed. And that makes sense if you're making a argument for like his inability to be traded, or like how you can get stuck with the contract, how that contract can go bad. But if you're talking about what his expectations are year over year, what does the guaranteed part have to do with it? You know what I mean? Like, it's just saying it to just, people have associated guaranteed contracts for some reason with bad, and it's just saying that to push that association. But again, why would his expectations for 1 year of a contract be the same every year? Like, he's judged over the length of the contract if you want to do that argument, but you can't isolate the entire expectations of a 5-year contract based on what he does in 1 year of that contract. That makes any sense. That doesn't make any sense.
Passionate take.
It is.
Phenomenal take. I don't agree with it, but I love listening to it. Success for me would be winning a playoff game. You have to equal your personal best individually, and you have to equal your personal best as a team. I always think about times, again, y'all know my favorite sport is track and field. If you switch coaches, I know those fan base, quite literally.
They might actually just give themselves a banner.
Quite literally, you have to go to 1989. They lost to the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship game. That's the last time they went to a championship game, and I think it's the only time they won.
I got you, Cove. I'm just recording for Maine.
Takes from both you guys. I mean, Jordan came out real hot with.
I got you. I see you back there. I'm recording a video for Main Channel. Hold on. Oh, I see you back there. I'm just recording a video for Main Channel. Hold for a second.
I had you muted. That's why I was like, man, I can't hear nothing he say. I was like, is it me or is it him this time?
Yeah. I'm still recording real quick. I'll be ready to jump back in a couple seconds.
All right, I got you.
So in this clip, and another clip that I have to, again, summarize because they won't let me leave it in the video. Shady basically says he expects the Browns to be a division winner, and he thinks that's a fair expectation to have for Deshaun Watson and the Browns. And he thinks that that would be a good bar for them to hit, given the lack of success that the Cleveland Browns have had, especially in the last 20 years. He also notes that Deshaun Watson does get to a playoff game, does get to a division championship. That'll be the first time that the Cleveland Browns have ever achieved that. And because the Browns bar is so low when it comes to division success and playoff success, that should meet the high bar of expectations for Deshaun Watson. I also disagree with these kind of takes because the expectations for the Cleveland Browns this year, the bar for the Cleveland Browns this year, should not be determined based off of what they've done in the past or what they have not done in the past, because you're not paying this team on some kind of different bar than what the rest of the league is. This team, as properly constructed as they are right now, should be a team that should get to the playoffs, win a playoff game, and then we'll see what happens after that. Right. They're not proven enough to have any further expectations, but they should be a playoff team and they should be able to win a playoff game. Or at least be very competitive in a playoff game, depending on who they draw. I don't think that those expectations should be weighed down or pushed down because you don't think the Browns as an organization have been ran well. That's cool. And that's all true. The Cleveland Browns have not been ran well, but that has nothing to do with this year's team because the weight of that is purely for fans, right? The weight of the Cleveland Browns over the last year, that's purely for our interest. That has nothing to do with this team right now because this is not the same team that has stunk for the last 20 years, or at least the same roster of players that have stunk for the last 20 years. This is a different group of players entirely. So the Browns' expectations should not be low barred because, they haven't won a playoff game in how long and this and that. It's like, no, if you have high expectations for Deshaun Watson and you think this team should be a playoff team and win a playoff game, I think those are fair expectations to have. What I will argue against is saying just because he signed to an expensive contract, that means that the expectations should be Super Bowl every year, because the expectations aren't Super Bowl every year for anybody, no matter what contract they have. Point blank, period. I don't care how you feel about Deshaun Watson's contract. That's not the expectation for any quarterback in the NFL to win the Super Bowl every year, no matter how expensive they are. It's just not. It wasn't even that for Tom Brady. So thinking that those are going to be the expectations just because somebody signed an expensive contract, that's silly. And if your goal is to stop people from talking about players' contracts by making this ridiculous argument about players' contracts, I don't think you're helping that goal either. I'm somebody who likes to think that I try to make the argument that, hey, we shouldn't be looking at these dudes' money as much as we do. We're not the ones footing the bill. I make these arguments regularly. But the argument that she made was completely one of those, acting like you foot the bill type of arguments with his contract. And I just don't think that's a fair expectation. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.